It's Halloween, I'm in the second grade, and I'm excited. Now, just being Halloween is enough to make me excited. But I was especially excited this year because my parents were gonna let my brother and me go trick-or-treating all by ourselves. My brother Doug was in the 5th grade, and his best friend Mike was going with us, but my parents were gonna stay home the whole time. They gave us 3 rules. We had to stay together. My brother had the flashlight. We could only trick-or-treat in our neighborhood, just around that one block. And we couldn't eat any of our candy until after we got home. Well, I knew my brother did not want me to go along. I knew this because I was standing beside him when he told my mother he did not want me to go along. And she said, "And why not?" And Doug says, "'Cause he's little and he'll slow us down. And besides," he said, looking right at me, "he's a baby. Am not, R2, am not stopping." My mother had a way of stopping arguments. Now, you 2 boys can find a way to go trick-or-treating together, or you can both stay home. You let me know what you'd like to do. Well, my brother made a huffing sound. He got down, and as he walked past me, he punched me on the arm, and he said, "Stupid." Well, I was still excited because I was going as Casper the Friendly Ghost. If you don't know Casper, Casper was a cartoon ghost when I was a little boy. And he lived with 3 grown-up ghosts who were always grumpy and trying to scare people. But not Casper. Casper was a friendly ghost. And I thought, I'm going to be a ghost. I want to be a friendly one. Well, my brother was going as a flying monkey. Remember in The Wizard of Oz, the Wicked Witch of the West had those monkeys with those wings and they'd fly up and scoop people up? Yeah, that's what he was. And his costume looked pretty good, except the wings. When he first had it on, one wing was up and the other one was down. And the next time he tried it, this wing was up and that one was down. And right before we went out trick-or-treating, both wings were down. If you looked at him from the front, he just looked like a regular monkey with a funny hat. Now, I tried to lift him up for him, but my brother just pushed me away, and that was the end of it. Well, we started off. Mike joined us right away, and we went to the very first house. My brother pushed up, and he rang the doorbell. Ding dong! And this lady came to the door, and she looked at us, and she got right down in my face and said, "Aren't you the scariest little ghost ever?" And I ripped off my mask and said, "No, I'm a friendly ghost." And my brother said, "Put your mask back on, stupid." And then the lady left and a man came, and he looked right at Doug and he said, "What's the matter? Lost your organ grinder already?" Now, I wasn't exactly sure what an organ grinder was. So I asked my brother as we were walking away, and he said, "Shut up." Well, we heard some other monkey jokes that night. Usually there was somebody just looking right at my brother and saying, "Oh, just out monkeying around, are you?" We had 2 houses where they gave Mike and me big chocolate flowers. They gave Doug a banana. Well, Doug was getting mad. I knew he was because he's walking faster and faster. And Mike could trot and keep up with him, but I couldn't, and I was having trouble. And they turned the corner ahead of me, and when I got up there, I tripped and I dropped my bag, and my candy went all over, and I'm hollering for them. But they kept going, but I'm like, okay, they'll wait for me when they make that next turn. Not only did they not wait for me, they didn't make the turn. They kept on going. So I'm hurrying and I'm hollering, and finally at the next block, then they stopped and they turned around, Doug shining the flashlight. Well, when I caught up to him, I said, "We were supposed to turn right back there." Doug said, "Shut up. You see that house across the street?" I looked at it, it looked like all the other houses. He said, "There's a wicked witch that lives there. And her favorite thing to do is little boys. Sometimes she'll bite off their heads in one bite. But usually she'll just take a finger or a toe because that way they last longer. Well, I was kind of thinking maybe we ought to skip that house. But my brother's pushing me forward, and the next thing I know, he's pushing me up on the porch and telling me to ring the doorbell. So I reached up, ding dong, and right then I hear my brother's voice behind me. Run! And I turned around just in time to see my brother Mike disappear in the darkness running up the street. And behind me, I heard that door creak open. And I turned around, and there was the witch. And she had a tall black hat and green skin and a really long nose. And she was holding something on a platter, and she said, "Care for an apple? They might be poisoned, you know." Well, this next part I only know because my brother told me later. Well, we'll catch up in just a second. Doug and Mike ran up that next block. Finally, they stopped, partly to get their breath and partly to stop laughing. And they started walking back down, and Doug said, "I bet Andy will be waiting for us at the corner of that yard where we left him." When they got there, I wasn't there. And then Mike said, "Do you think he tried to walk home without us?" Doug said, "Nah, even he's not that stupid." And then Mike said, "Do you think the witch got him?" Doug didn't have an answer for that, but he started walking down toward the house. And Mike's trotting along. He says, "Are you going to ring the doorbell?" "No, because then she'd know we were here." So they got down below the porch, and Mike got up on Doug's shoulder so he could see in the window. And Doug says, "Can you see the witch?" "No." "Can you see Andy?" "Yeah." "And he's still got his head." "I can't see his fingers and toes." But he's turning up. "He's eating ice cream." Right then, a big man's voice came out of the darkness. "What are you boys doing here?" And both of them fell to the ground as they're scrambling to get up. The man steps out, and it's our daddy. Right then, that front door creaks open, and that witch steps out, and she says, "Won't you come in, boys? We've been expecting you." Well, here's what happened to me. I'm on that front porch with that witch, and I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do, but the one thing I wasn't going to do was eat one of those apples. But I'm sitting there, and I felt my lower lip start to quiver, but I wasn't going to cry, and what I said was, "I hate Halloween." And when I said that, that witch took a step back, and she said, "And why is that?" And I said, "It's not supposed to be this way." And I ripped off my mask, because I'm a friendly ghost. And that witch got down on one knee, and she said, "And I'm a friendly witch." She reached down inside her dress, and she wiggled around in there, and you won't believe it, she ripped off her whole face. Off came that black hat, off came all that green skin, off came that big long nose, and underneath was Mrs. Whiteside, my Sunday school teacher. And I love Mrs. Whiteside. She gave me a hug right there on the porch, and she says, "Well, you're a long way from home. Are you all by yourself?" And I told her about Doug and Mike running off. And she said, "Well, I have an idea. How about you come in with me? I will fix you a big bowl of ice cream, and I'll call your mother, and she will come pick you up." I thought this was a great idea. And she did fix me a big bowl of ice cream with pieces of chopped up bats and chopped up rats. They tasted like chocolate. And she called my mother. My mother told my daddy. My daddy came to pick us up. Well, the ride home was pretty quiet. We let Mike off at his house, and when we got to our house, we all went in and sat around the dining room table where my mother was waiting. And we had a long talk about where we had been and why we had been there. And then my mother told me to dump out everything in my bag on the table. And she rummaged through it, and she said, "You can pick out 2 pieces of candy for tonight, and we'll save the rest for later." I got the Reese's peanut butter cups, because they're my favorites. Well, Then she told Doug to dump his bag out, and she rummaged through it. And she put all it back in the bag. She put his bag up in the freezer. And she said, we'll talk about what happens to your kidney tomorrow. But you can have all the bananas you want. Well, we went on up to bed, and as soon as things got quieted down, I said, hey, Doug, boy. And I got up, I tipped her over, and I said, hold out your hand. And when he did, I gave him one of my Reese's peanut butter cups. And I got back in the bed. And in a little bit, Doug says, hey, Andy, yeah, I'm sorry I left you at the witch's house. And I said, I know. And in a little bit, I said, hey, Doug, yeah, next year, can we go to Mrs. Whiteside's house first? You bet. Happy Halloween.